Return to the Land of Oz in Wicked, the film adaptation of the historic Broadway musical, starring Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, our lead, the woman who would go on to become the Wicked Witch of the West, and Ariana Grande as Glinda or Glinda. I'm still not quite sure. As Glinda the Good Witch, right? Who comes down in a bubble dug. Wicked is from director Jon M, formerly directed Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights. This is a lofty musical adaptation. It is nearly 3 hours long. I think it's just about as long as the full play, and it's only the first half. Only goes up to intermission, then you got to come back next year. And Warner Brothers didn't tell anybody. You just find out when you go in or you hear about it on a podcast like this one. Wicked is long and it is big, and it is the story of Elphaba arriving at Shiz University the day it opens, a prestigious school in the land of Oz, alongside Glinda, who is looking to become a sorceress. Upon display of some great power and possibly terrible, Elphaba immediately is brought under the wing of Madame Morrible, local sorceress trainer at the school, played by Michelle Yeoh, much to the dismay of Glinda. The two of them end up becoming roommates through a funny happenstance. A bit of a rivalry begins, and once they begin to understand each other, they decide that they have to go to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz in all of his great and terrible power in the Emerald City. They hop a train, travel there, meet Jeff Goldblum, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, where some things go down. It's really all in the trailer. I'm not sure I'm spoiling a lot. But anyway, Elphaba has to take off and get out of there. She grabs a broom and her trusty hat, sings Defying Gravity, and heads to the skies. It is a lofty, lofty adaptation. And for what's here, I think it's really good, because I don't know a lot about Wicked. I didn't know anything about Wicked going into this, actually. And believe it or not, I didn't read any of what I just said. I just remembered it all from seeing the movie, because our characters are memorable. And our characters are silhouettes of unique individuals. And everybody is different. And everything is well established. Jon M has done really fantastic work here. And I feel like I've talked too much about it already. Andy, what did you think of Wicked?
So first I wanted to say that I'm not really a huge fan of this musical. I remember back in 2004 when Wicked the musical was hitting the stage and everyone was obsessed with it. It was a bit like Hamilton was about 10 years ago. And I just could not get into it. But I really ended up loving this movie. I thought it was an incredible production. The music, the acting, the song and dance numbers, the sets, everything works. And it is long. Like, it should not work as well as it does. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. But the pacing just goes, like, it never feels stale. I never got bored. It moves, and it's so impressive. And this was like a who's who. Everyone in Hollywood wanted this role, and in the music industry. I was looking up, Lady Gaga auditioned for this, Katy Perry auditioned for this, big Amy Adams, Leah Michelle, a bunch of people who do sing and don't really sing. No one was ever going to out sing Ariana Grande, though. I'll say that much. But everyone wanted these two roles, and they got, and who we got fits it so well. I didn't realize kind of the serious nature of this musical and the book. This is kind of about fascism and propaganda and the dangers thereof. And I had from our very first story, like, we meet Glinda and she's like, oh yes, the witch is dead, she's so evil and she's so bad, and then we get a flashback and we're like, wait a minute, the story doesn't really quite connect. It's almost about like the how history itself can be used as a tool of propaganda. So I wasn't really prepared for the serious nature of some of the themes in here as well. So it comes together really well. I was really impressed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about not knowing where it's going. Like, I didn't either. I wasn't really familiar with the adaptation. I knew it was an Oz prequel, and I like The Wizard of Oz just fine. I actually rewatched it just a few months ago. Rock solid, great time. And this movie, even though it's not from the same company, we don't actually have our ruby red slippers because it didn't come from MGM Warner Brothers as a Universal joint. Also does not connect to the Disney Oz universe. At one point, I thought they were going to flash back to James Franco from Oz the Great and Powerful, the Sam Raimi film from a few years ago. Not the same studio. Can't do that, right? Oz is overall. Copyright isn't a thing in the land of Oz, except for the ruby slippers. MGM owns those. But outside of that, like, there's a lot this movie has to do. It has to pay homage to the Broadway musical and give it its flowers. It has to speak cinematically to the Oz that audiences are familiar with and present us with somewhere we've been before. And it has to defy expectation, right? How does the Wicked Witch end up not being so wicked after all? Or how does she end up becoming the thing that we believe to be wicked if she is that? The answer, like you said, Andy, systemic problems, right? What evil do we prop up that is worse than the Wicked Witch? How does she get to be who she is? Well, fascism and a little bit of racism. Animalism? I did not expect any of the animal plot in this, I should say. And I don't want to talk too much about it. It's not that it's spoilers, but it's definitely not in the trailer. And if you've seen the musical, you know what I'm talking about. That kind of came out of left field and takes the movie in a strange direction. But it is so pleasant watching Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande work together on screen. I can't believe how good they are in this movie. I've seen a lot of the interviews. I know they can both sing. I didn't think that was going to be a problem. They genuinely hold attention and have dramatic and comedic chemistry in ways that is really charming and works fantastic. I think Ariana Grande gets the edge in the performance only because Glinda is so much more challenging of a character. I understand Erivo's got big themes on her shoulders, but ultimately it results in a lot of being quiet and being shy and being pushed back for the first half of the movie until she starts to come out of her shell. Ariana Grande, meanwhile, has to suck up all the attention in the room all the time and hold that attention and have the charisma and the vitality to do so. And she does a great job. She's tremendous. I can't believe her last big acting role was in like 2019. And now she is functional co-star of this film and holds it down great. Really, really funny performance, really charming performance, very dramatic. Same with Erivo, like fantastic work from these two. I can't believe how good they are in it. Like I figured maybe they'd be fine. They'd work good. But compared to like Paul Mescal at Gladiator 2, who has nothing to do the whole movie, like these two have to do everything. They have to put the whole movie on their backs and they do a great job. Like fantastic.
Yeah, Ariana Grande is so good in this. I mean, I figured she would be. I knew she'd be able to sing like you. I didn't really think much past that. But she nails the character of Glinda so well because Glinda is she's so full of herself. She's so selfish, at least in the beginning of the film, and she is so funny. Like there's so many throwaway lines and throwaway gestures, and it's just like micro acting that Ariana Grande just nails and would be real easy to miss or do too much. And again, like she finds like just the right tune for it. And again, meanwhile, Cynthia Erivo has to do kind of the stoic, it's a little bit of a stand-in for racism or like othering, because she is green. She's different. Everyone laughs at her. Everyone jokes at you. She's the joke of the town, and she has to deal with a lot of that in a much more serious way. And they both just hit their notes pitch perfectly. So our performances are rock solid. They definitely got the best for these roles.
Yeah. Additionally, I want to mention Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, who is good. I think she's good. She's fine. I don't think Madame Morrible at least has too much to do in part one here. She's functionally just like a supervisor who inspire the girls and like inspire them to grow within themselves and like, tap into their magic and figure themselves out. But like, she's fine. I hope she has more to do in part two because I think she's a lot of fun. Jeff Goldblum is the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Pretty delightful. Every time I see Jeff Goldblum in a movie, I think, he's just going to be being Jeff Goldblum.
Play it.
Yeah, talking funny, but like, no, he kind of works great. He's like this Walt Disney kind of racketeur who's like, hey, come on in and look at my big machine face I've built. And oh yeah, come look at this. And this is the Oz of tomorrow that I believe in. Like, kind of totally works great. Ethan Slater as Bach is good. Charming. Certainly a silhouette. He's got the frizzy hair and he wears a goofy sweater and he's just like gushing over Glinda, who's very sweet, but obviously would much rather Bach spend time with Nessa, Elphaba's sister, who is disabled, who is a weird left turn in the movie who I also did not expect and is not featured in much of the marketing. Like when I watched the trailer for Wicked and thought, God, the whole movie's in here. Most of it's in there, but like you'd be surprised at the stuff that isn't. And like additional performances from Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, Peter Dinklage. Bowen Yang and Bronwyn James as Glinda's like two sidekick characters are also really funny.
Hilarious.
And manage to meet her energy a lot. Like they'll be in the background behind her, like tuttering or like thinking something's embarrassing and like really funny. Like they give it a lot of space. Really surprised at how funny it is. And I know a musical's usually funny, especially big ones like this. Hamilton's got some good laughs, but like this one like really translates well to screen, and I think it's because Jon M is so good at using the language of film to adapt a musical in a way that feels so native to the screen. Like he uses the camera to take us into these locations, into these places, to get a good close up on the characters, like to really lean in when one of them's just about to break and cry in front of everybody, you know, like pull back when the song gets big, use jump cuts. There's split screen in a couple of these songs, like where it literally draws a line down the middle and shows us two different things at the same time, like using editing and the language of film to show us something we can't see on stage, like makes this feel special and makes this feel unique and keeps that runtime short. It's edited real tight. There's a lot of cuts in this movie. Good God, lots of cuts.
Yeah, from what I understand, the movie ends where the musical kind of the first half is finished, the intermission. On I guess it's Defying Gravity. That's the end of the first half, so that's what we get. There's also some very very touching moments. There's a couple of places like you'll tear up. People in my theater that they were crying. It was a good time. Which, by the way, I had. It was like Barbie. People were dressed up in pink and green, and they had like their bedazzled shoes. I mean, it was like a whole event. So a really good time, but also some very touching moments. Which again, there's both ends of the acting spectrum they have to do. They do all the comedy and the big songs, and there's also the smaller, more intimate moments that also work really well.
Yeah, it's funny because like so much of the Wicked soundtrack is memorable, like Defying Gravity, and then when you get into watching it, you get halfway through it, and then you remember like into the song. Oh yeah, Popular is also on this track, like which is great. Like a lot of good music on there. And then as Andy mentioned previously, like there's some B-sides on the Wicked musical set list that are fine. And when the movie like breaks into a song and breaks out of the world of the film a little bit, and you end up watching one of these numbers for a few minutes, if it's not like good stuff, like Popular or Defying Gravity, or even like Jonathan Bailey's Dancing Through Life, which is fine, it does slow down the movie a little bit, and that may be the time somebody's getting up and going to the bathroom. But like, I'm impressed at how well this movie moves. At 2 hours and 45 minutes on paper, it's way too long. By the time it hits credits, I would have watched another hour to wrap it up. I would have stuck around like for more of what this movie's offering, and that's meaningful. Like, look at me, I'm not the target audience for Wicked. You got attention retention. Like I'm remembering all these details and characters and names and locations. I'm looking forward to watching more of it. Like for all intents and purposes, the Wicked movie worked great. It might work too good. Like I think word of mouth might carry this movie over $1 billion.
Yeah, it definitely might have some really good legs. Like I said, its only competition is going to be Moana 2 for at least the next month, which is heavy competition. But at the same time, it got a head start. It was going to come out the same day as Moana this Wednesday, but they wisely backed it up to just get a jump on the box office, get word of mouth out. And, you know, it's the holidays. People got a lot of time. Most people are going to see both anyways. But yeah, it works so well. And when I saw that 2 hours, 40-minute runtime, I was a little scared myself. And funny enough, I expected Gladiator to be the movie I was more excited about. And that I ended up having some boring moments in that. I heard someone sleeping in my theater in Gladiator 2. Not the case with Wicked at all.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention before we get to formal reviews, regarding the lighting and coloring, even blocking. Like I've seen a lot of film heads on Twitter getting technical with the trailer and being like, this movie's color looks washed out. Why is everything backlit? And they're just using studio lights. Look, when you take screenshots of this movie and put it together, like I agree. There's certainly some critique in like the presentation and how it looks and why colors might look a little washed out. When you watch the film, it's so consistent across the runtime, you don't care because you fall into the world of the film. Like Jon M puts you under a spell and it works. It's not that noticeable when you're watching the whole movie. Like I've definitely seen people say, oh, the blocking doesn't work here, or the scenes in these cuts don't, like the kinetic energy doesn't carry over from scenes. I'm like, I'm telling you, like it works. This movie's going to make a bunch of money. It's going to keep making money, and they're going to make part 2, and that's going to make a bunch of money too. Like for all intents and purposes, this is a W, like all around. So if there's anybody out there who feels like the technicals don't add up, like I'm sure there's conversation for that, but for the most part, this movie looks great and sounds great and plays great and is smart and funny and charming in every way it needs to be. It's genuinely impressive, like how well it works and how positive the energy seems to be coming from everybody involved in the production. Everybody on set wants to give the original its flowers and pay homage to what came before, and also bring that same sort of like lightning in a bottle energy that made the Broadway musical so popular in the first place, but to film. Like, it is a lofty goal to make a Wicked adaptation and make it good. It's easy to adapt something and make it mid, right? It's almost easier to
see
make
that
it
all
bad.
the time.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It is difficult to do it well, and Wicked does it really well, like super well. I'm just really impressed at how good this movie is.
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add other than, like I said, it was really blown away. It's definitely going to be a big awards contender. It's definitely technical awards, acting stuff. I'm sure it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. It definitely is one of the best movies of the year. Like, it almost reminded me of like old Marvel, where it's like, yeah, they're going to spend 250 million and it's going to be worth every penny.
Yeah, you had mentioned that last night. We were talking about this, and in that same way, I didn't think of that when I was watching it, but like there's ample ground here to build more. Like, if Wicked Part 2 has the same kind of vibrance and energy that this does and wraps it up in a satisfying way, like, there is no reason Universal can't kick off another Oz movie in a couple years. 100%. Like, if you can keep this going, like, if you can figure out the algorithm that makes this movie work, the performances and the fine lines and the scripts and the dedication and the care, like, you can build an Oz universe out of it. And I wonder if that might be where we're going. That would be nuts, but we'll see. Many have tried, right? Many still try, like Marvel. But for now, we're going to stick with Wicked Part 1. Not actually titled Part 1. It was originally Wicked Part 1, and they changed it to just Wicked. I'm assuming Wicked Part 2 will just be Wicked Part 2, right?
It does say Part 1 on the title card.
Yeah, it's true. IMDb's got it as formerly Wicked Part 1. I didn't know what to call it for the episode. I figured I'd just call it Wicked. But you're right. The title card does give the Part 1. I wondered how they'd do that. Like, if they'd be like Denis Villeneuve's Dune, where it just pops up like at the bottom, like Part 1.
It'll probably have a, you know what? Because they don't like to do Part 1 and 2. It'll have some sort of different subtitle, as like Wicked Death of Oz or something. Not that, but you know,
I know
it'll have some. It'll be
Wicked
something
the
in
Return
that
or something. Yeah, right. Like
exactly.
something that will get people in theaters. Anyway, Andy, would you recommend Wicked?
Yes, absolutely. Highly, highly recommend. One of the best films of the year for kids and families. It's long, but it works. Incredible performances from Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, and our supporting cast as well. The effects, the song and dance numbers, all of it works incredibly well, more than it probably should, or that I anticipated it would. It's going to be one of the biggest hits of the year. Highly recommend.
Yeah, it's kind of a banger. Wicked's a certified hood classic, dude. Go see Wicked. It's great. Take your parents, take the family. Everybody can go see it. A lot of families in my theater. Everybody was really cool at the screening. Nobody was singing. If it runs through December and people do sing-alongs, we're going to see more. We're going to see memes. We're going to see GIFs. Like, and it's all valid. That's I think the best thing about Wicked is it invites you in to celebrate that energy too. Come see Wicked. Everyone's invited to see Wicked. Nobody is pushed away here. Nobody is outside of this group. It's all inclusive. Everyone come in, come hang out and celebrate what makes this stuff great. And like come celebrate the same sort of energy that I think Wicked is bringing to the stage and screen. It's good. It's good. Wicked's great. Probably a top 10 of the year. So good Lord, that's episode 274 of Off Script, Andy. We're flying through the year. We're taking next week off for the holiday. I requested that one. I know we just took a week off because we had stuff going on, but hey, you know what? Your boys need to celebrate Thanksgiving the only way they know how, by going out of town and not sticking around and watching movies. So that's me. What are we watching when we get back on the 10th? The 10th? I think the 10th. December.
Yes,
10th.
December 10th. Yeah. We'll be back sometime that week. Moana 2 hits theaters this week, November 25th, which is a Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving Day. So it has a nice 5-day run for the weekend. That's the huge release now. And then we'll be looking to watch something else. We got to check streaming. See what else. So TBD on that. Some FYI releases on November 27th. Maria comes out. That's the Maria Callas biopic featuring Angelina Jolie, and a small film called The Seat of the Sacred Fig, which I'm kind of excited about. An Iranian film also comes out on the 27th. Some smaller things, just if you happen to be interested in those. But we'll be back on the 10th with Moana 2 and To Be Decided.
Yeah, excited about Seat of the Sacred Fig as well. Big, bold cinema heads out there will know. Like, that one looks like a banger. Moana 2 is probably going to make $1 billion, for sure. And I saw the other day that they posted, like, the big title track from that movie, and they were like, you can watch it now. I'd rather wait and see it in theaters so I can feel the moment my brain realizes that this is the song, this is the Frozen song, this is the Moana song, this is going to be the big title track that Disney tries to push. Why watch it early when I could just watch it in theaters, right? And why watch it in theaters when you could listen to us tell you about what we thought on Off Script Film Review every single week, except for next week because we're off for the holiday. We'll be back on the 10th with episode 275 talking about Moana 2 and something else. Best way to keep up with us for when that comes around is just subscribe to the show on wherever you're watching us right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe there. If you're one of our audio listeners on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartMedia, you can subscribe somewhere around there, I'm sure. You can also rate and review, which would be a big help, by the way, a big help for podcasters out there. You can comment wherever you're able. Also helps engagement, right? Every little bit helps. There's no not helping here as long as you're engaging with the show. We're on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all the usual social media places you can find us.
We need to jump on Blue Sky.
You jump on Blue Sky. That's right. bsky.app. God, considering we have a domain, now that I think about it, we could probably add ourselves as Dr. Draper and Zach at Oscar.
Live production happening.
Hey, watch out. You heard it here first in episode 274. Anyway, yes, you can find us on all these social media places. You can find us on our website, offscriptfilmreview.com, where we're posting additional clips, interviews, reviews, just other stuff we got going on. And you can write us directly, correspondence direct at mail@offscriptfilmreview.com. I think that wraps up everything. We'll see you in a couple weeks on Off Script, episode 275, the home of bold cinema. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.